Have a Nice Death takes a humorous take on the feeling of taking on too much responsibility because of others' obvious disregard in a corporate atmosphere. There's a lot of charm and things to admire about this particular action roguelike, but there aren't enough things to keep you amused after the first few hours of very linear and very uninteresting gameplay. Story-wise, we have Death, who has grown bored of having to deal with all of the paperwork that he had to handle while continuously doing what Death does best, guiding the souls into the afterlife when their time has come. Over time, it becomes difficult to keep up both reaping souls and of course reception work, so he summons an army of demons to take over the ever-increasing need to reap souls from all around the world. As he sits back and enjoys the much more stable process, he becomes overwhelmed once again. His employees seem to have been slacking off with their own paperwork, piling it onto him as he gradually becomes stressed and depleted of all of his power. Eventually he ends up having enough and decides to put them in their place and remind everybody why he is the one in charge. It initially emphasizes how smooth and clean each ability and weapon animation is as you combo your way higher into the corporate ladder, particularly with the catchy sound effects that they use on specific occasions.
Welcome to the afterlife.
After a while, it feels like nothing is genuinely being accomplished. While there are specific portions of hilarious interactions with each of the coworkers and a lot of personality put into each and every NPC that you meet along the way, I can't help but think that there could have been a little bit more substance within each of these dialogues. Like more side quests or rewarding progression outside of the RNG elements that would make or break your runs, outside of just completing specific tasks that would give you a discount on future unlocks at the store at the very start of the game. The majority of what NPCs will say will be things that you'll forget within seconds because it doesn't really go anywhere. Once you grasp each of the boss's rotations, the difficulty is determined by the weapons and power-ups and curses that you acquire along the path, which will make the game easier or tougher in a very tedious manner. If you were to acquire, for example, the bee or bow skills, they are oftentimes very overpowered in various ways by default or even when upgraded, as you do not need to be close to your targets as they deal an insane amount of damage and also auto-path to their targets, along with mana and cooldown requirements being pretty low, which allows you to spam them pretty often. But when you're first starting out, you're only going to be able to use melee. The difficulty increases dramatically because you're always going to be inside the enemy's strike or explosion range. Once again, we return to the upgrades you obtained along the way, which makes something easier or more difficult than it should be. You'll kinda strive for that RNG run where everything becomes super easy, or you'll just feel like you want to reset. When I first saw this game, what really stood out was the visuals and smoothness. It appeared that the developers had put in a lot of effort to bring the game to life, but you'll also realize that they may have missed out on the rest of the game by not focusing enough on the story, balancing, and true replayability where you'll actually feel rewarded in the end. The hack-and-slash action roguelike gameplay is very linear. While the game itself looks very nice with its visuals, it had around a couple of hours of playtime before I decided to just stop since I didn't really want to go through the same levels in the exact same way against the exact same enemies with the same somewhat dull skills or overpowered skills, unlocking things I would most likely never use.